We have about almost 100 years of experience sitting on the dais over here. So we promise to make this as interesting as possible for all of you all. Now in this particular panel, we will shift gears a bit from strategy to execution. The focus is going to be on what can we do today or in the next 365 days to make a difference to the whole streamlining of warehousing and pharma exports. All right. So this is where the rubber meets the road, or should I say tarmac. And speaking of tarmac, the very first thing that comes to our mind is the airport tarmac, where the last 100 meters is where most of the misses happen, be it damages, be it excursions, or be it bumps or drops and whatnot. So I would like to start off with Mr. Pramod. So Mr. Pramod, while we wait for the airports to invest in infrastructural advances for cold chain logistics, what can we do as shippers and as forwarders to try and minimize these damages and cold chain excursions for the last 100 meters?
Thank you, Hanoz. So this tarmac situation on the airport is really a challenge for the cargo manufacturer as well as the exporters. Yes, this 100 minutes or 100 meters of distance is really a problem for the basically safety of the product. So the most reasonably solution is thermal blankets, which we definitely we have to use to avoid these transshipments in the transit as well as in our own airports wherever is there. So there are some breathable thermal blankets available in the markets, which is taking care of around 200 minutes plus. There is a requirement of validation of those blankets, and with the help of those blankets we can sustain this tarmac situations. But if your product is very costly, very vulnerable for the temperature, then you should have the environment trainer to sustain these for the more than 200 minutes in the tarmac situation.
I think that's very interesting. So I think thermal blankets is one thing. Some of the other things which I can also think of is that the packaging validation in itself. So when you do your packaging validation, you got to test it for failure. In that sense, you are trying to
expose. Can I add to the opinion of Pramod? These are my personal opinions. These are nothing to do with my organization, and these are all my personal experiences. So at the tarmac, I think yes, Pramod has pointed out very well usage of breathable thermal blankets or the envirotainers. There are certain midway PCM based packaging solutions today which are readily available. They are very cost friendly also, and they can help you to maintain requisite temperatures, provided we have those kind of trainings or the information flow which goes from right from the exporters till the people who are actually touching the cargo, be it the airport authorities, the people over there, the airliners, the ground staff. So these are some of the things. Apart from that, I think maybe we can have some a different approach also today when we are looking at the geographies, when we are sitting in the India and the cargo is going to the US, which has got like -20 or -10 or that kind of thing. So you can always take a different view on which kind of flights you can choose. Maybe in the India you can choose a night flight, or somewhere in the Europe or some hub points you can take a afternoon flight. So that way also you can avoid the excursions to the extent you can. See, I'm not sure whether we have a perfect solution, but this is the approach one can adopt. The other thing is that maybe we can go for some sustainable solution, like you can have an accelerated study of your product. So in a particular temperature range, like whatever is today going 2 to 8 degree or a 15 to 25 or a -70, you can have always a study which can support those kind of adversities also. So that is what I wanted to add from my experiences to what Pramod has mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Devang. And Mr. Girish, coming to you, since you have the ringside view of all of this, how would you compare, the infrastructure at the airports, various airports across India? How does that compare with some of the airports that you see outside, like say Dubai, for example? And very curious, I'm sure people are curious to know how is NMIMA shaping up?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Hanoz. I've worked in Europe as well, and I've been in Dubai as well, in the Middle East countries. One strategic difference I've seen is that from volume, they have all shifted to value now, which while we're still struggling with volume. In terms of value, I'm talking about a simple cool dolly, which is widely available in, say, in Frankfurt Airport or possibly you go to Dubai. It's widely available. It's a very cost-effective method of transporting your goods for that 100 meters to, either a area where you can plug your shipments if it is active. And passive, of course, as phase change material, which can help you maintain the, temperature. That could be one option. Otherwise, as Devang and Pramod rightly said, a thermal blanket is a very, very common usage. You can possibly have phase change material as well, as Devang rightly said. PCMs are widely used these days, and we can use a phase change material also to ensure that we maintain the temperature. And the other one is, as Devang rightly said, possibly use a multimodal option as well. In the DHL world I come from, we have something called a sea air service, which is basically that you take half a shipments through ocean and then you fly the rest by air. So it gives you an advantage of transit time, it gives you an advantage of price. It also helps you in the sustainable standpoint as well in terms of emitting less amount of carbon.
Yeah, but then if you try to do multimodal, I'm sure Gaurav will have an opinion on that as far as product availability and shelf life goes. But we'll come to that. It's a good point. So then, taking on this point further, Mr. Devang, I wanted to check with you, based from your vast experience, what kind of packaging and labeling standardizations can we potentially see which could help avoid or minimize this risk of in-transit damages or in-transit temperature excursions?
Today, I can say the supply chain has become so robust, and with the amount of time which has lapsed in the last 2 decades, because all has started evolving since 2010 onwards, when all the pharma, because most of the pharma today in India is into the generic market service, into the western world of the globe. So yes, it started in a very nasal stage, and today now I would not say whether we have matured, but we have solutions, and how we take these solutions and we transform it to the down the line, that is more important. So now coming to your point about this, how can we avoid the excursions or the damages? The points are like you can have a right product label, how the handling has to be done for those things, if those are properly outlined. Second thing is that you can have a quarterly review with your partners that will enable you to clear or avoid those kind of excursions and the damages. The third part is that you will have to do as a manufacturer your own studies also. What is the packaging, the robustness of the packaging, what kind of temperature or the moistures it can create in the transit, in the supply chain, because there are 2 different weathers, 2 different worlds. So you will have to do your own studies. You will have to carry out some back end with your suppliers who are supplying you these packaging solutions. And again, on the excursion part, you have this now active and the passive data loggers. So the active data loggers will throw you the sensors, and it can blink and it can share all the informations when they are exposed to a certain particular temperatures. And this way you can avoid all those excursions by creating that senses into the systems.
I think that's a very good point. I think one thing that you mentioned about, we also need to look at where the shipment is going. So like for example, we have shipments going say from Europe to Australia.
Yep.
If it is summer in Europe, it's winter in Australia.
Exactly.
So your packaging needs to think of not only where it is originating from, but also on the other end, where it's going to land up in.
So that will create a moisture ultimately.
Exactly.
So it is important that you periodically review your packaging solutions also, and then you make the supply chain very, very, very robust over here.
Correct. So I want to bring in Mr. Vineet, you as well into this conversation. So if you can add a few points to this.
So I'm echoing this point or this to what this other team member have told that. So there is 3 aspects to look the packaging. One aspect is the regulatory, other aspect is the shippers, and third aspect is the LSPs. If the regulatory go with the aspect on the basis of data driven, according to the protocols, and logistics, which is called as a logistics requirement, regulatory go with the stability data. And there is a stability data, variance, upper limit they need to consider. Additionally, logistics, this temperature condition to be defined as per the distribution criteria, which is called as a distribution checklist or distribution mapping. This is. Additionally, there is a threshold need to be considered. What is the threshold of the temperature exertion to be put it in the label guideline? That will be very much helpful. Coming to the second with the shippers. Shippers, like this team member have told that, panelists told that these days, shippers is organization from manufacturer or quality of the company who takes care, right? So they need to do this properly studies with the guidelines. They need to take care of those, what is the upper limit, what is the seasonability, what is the lead time need to be taken care, what is the risk is involved. LSP or service provider need to be considered for accordingly for temperature mapping, monitoring, and what is the pushback. Accordingly, if these three will collaborate, so there is a very minimal in the temperature exertion and the obsolescence will be also reduced.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, despite the best intentions and all these best practices, there is still a lot of disruption that happens, right? There is wars, there is storms, there is some cyclones, typhoon, hurricane, somewhere always happening. Right now we have bushfires in Australia as well. So I want to bring you, Gaurav, into this from your extensive experience in planning. How do you plan for ensuring business continuity? Right from deciding what to stock for, what to not stock for, how much to stock for, where to stock for, what kind of service level, keeping in mind the customer. How do you go about this complexity?
Sure. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Gaurav and really appreciate the opportunity. And I think this is a very interesting topic at hand. Just before I touch on this specific point, I think there's a lot more investment that needs to happen in terms of technology. I think we are there improving year on year in terms of the journey ahead. But if I put across few data points, it will clearly show how critical the technology adoption in terms of digitization of logistics and distribution is very critical. And I think all the LSPs need to understand how this will not just benefit them, but also the overall infrastructure build-up that we are talking about. So when you see India as a pharma hub, there are two major data points if I tell you. One is India exports close to around 40% of consumption of entire Europe's pharma consumption. So it's that huge. Second, in terms of US, we have been, again, historical data clearly shows 25% of the import comes again from India. Surprisingly for me as well, when I was doing this or reading this, 65% of vaccines global consumption is again produced in India. So that's how powerful we are in terms of the pharma hub. Rather, we should also call it the vaccine hub of the globe, clearly by data, volume and value. Now coming from the market standpoint to the innovation and technology where we need to be, I think always the second order organizations benefit a lot. And I can maybe just to exemplify this point, what it means is, so anything which, say example, the Ford build the cars, right? That gave the first order advantage. When the car was invented, they kind of grew up almost 60 times in terms of in their first 5 years. But the biggest beneficiary came from the second order, which was Walmart. They grew 1,600 times of their market cap and network as a second order, because when cars came into adoption, people started going out and going to shop, and Walmart benefited the most before and after. Same ways, I think the revolution on the internet side. Cisco built the entire infrastructure, but the real benefit again came to the orders of likes of Netflix, right? So they again grew almost 2,300 times if somebody would have invested when Netflix came and today. So that's the kind of growth the second order organizations, Cisco versus Netflix, imagine that. Same ways, the way infrastructure roads are being built in India, I think the logistic partners, the freight forwarders of the likes that we see around need to take the benefit of this. They are the second order beneficiaries. So hence, technology adoption will definitely play very strong kind of growth player in the adoption and benefit both. It will be a win-win, not just for the
So I
industry.
think, Gaurav, you've answered the later question which I had on technology adoption. But coming
Sure.
back to the disruption part, how do you plan for that?
Perfect. So now coming to the products part of it. So one, when technology adoption happens, the product part becomes, the planning becomes much easier because you are less disrupted. But even then, the supply chain fundamentals clearly takes care of it. Supply chain fundamentals, if I talk about, is about MTO versus MTS. And in terms of, you can do a very clear, in whichever industry you may be it pharma, FMCG, medtech. So you have to segment your product. What is your class A, class B, class C? Or people call it class XYZ categorization or ABC classification. So your A's are basically your runners, which contribute 85% of your revenue. B's are remaining 10%, and last tail we call, which is the class C, is your strangers or kind of, which is very, very few in terms of the volume perspective. So class A always follows MTS. You have to have them in, because they are your bread and butter. You can't survive, your organization will fail without them. Second, class Bs can be hybrid strategy, mix of, from a volume perspective, MTS and MTO. Class C is purely MTO, so you manufacture them only when you get orders or only when you get confirmed visibility. So I think that's a very clear data-based, again, I think more important rather than going by gut feel decision making. It's very easy to do that, but it's more important to do a statistical analysis and have a data-based breakup of class A, B, C, what sells, where, in what location and in what quantity.
Okay.
You can have that classification and easy calculation.
So I think that's very interesting. I think beyond ABC as well, I think for the pharma industry, I think some of the new classification which are very important is VED. So you can have a vital, essential and desirable. So your stocking decisions can be a combination of ABC and VED, keeping in mind that we are servicing patients.
Absolutely. So again, it's the nomenclature, like rightly said, you can call it runner, repeater, strangers, or you can call it VED, vital,
Right.
essential. So it's one and the same thing, but most important is to have your historical data to play a lot of future kind of guesstimates.
Correct. And then, continuing on that, Gaurav, for you is, what kind of specific KPIs do you think that, exporters should have with SLAs, with the forwarders and logistics service providers to make sure that the entire end-to-end delivery part of it is executed properly without excursions?
Sure. I think, again, pure numbers, and we need to have smart KPIs or smart data-based goals very clearly there. Otherwise, I think famous quote is, English is very cheap. So, right, you can talk a lot, but when you come to data, I think that's where rubber, or you can say the road, where we meet the tarmac or the road. So, KPIs, lag indicators can be my OTIF, which clearly defines on time in full whether my shipments have reached or not, whether temperature excursion have happened or not, again in lag. But lead indicators, I think industry is more moving when we are talking about the AIs and MLs and LLMs of the world. So in supply chain, at least we expect this much of advancement where you move from lag to lead. So fill rates are very clear lead indicators. Whether I have my fills in the warehouse or not, I think that's very clear from an inventory perspective. Second, in terms of temperature control, real-time monitoring, again technology adoption. So a lot of organizations still use, with no disrespect to them, stickers, temperature change stickers are there. So a lot of organizations are still using that. But those stickers will always give you lag. Boss, the injection or the vaccine is now gone. You can do all the RCI and kappa, but you have to ultimately throw it, right? You can't give it to the end patient of temperature. So you need to have real-time data loggers. With that, the SOP, where your LSP is trained very well, that as soon as this alert comes to you or we pass on this message to you, what you have to do. Because the ground team is still unaware that I'm a driver, I don't know what to do. The temperature excursion is happening, but I don't know what to do.
Yes.
So that's where the training, so people and technology together has to go hand in hand. And I think that's a clear KPI we need to focus.
Mr. Pramod, just to bring you in on to this. So do you have any other KPIs that you would like to add to this to gain end-to-end visibility?
Yes, the KPIs.
Just keeping in mind the time, maybe.
Yeah, basically the KPIs for the transit shipments, the most important KPI is the regulators. The regulatory auditors is expecting their goods, their medicine should reach to the patient safely, and if there is any excursion, there will be a loss of shelf life. So the major first expectation is the route qualifications, through which route you are going to move the product from one place to the destination, final destination. So there will be a route qualification is the first number one KPIs which is required during the transit. And while moving the actual goods, we should have the validated temperature data logger inside each and every shipments, which gives the passive and active temperature data every hour, every 20 minutes or every 10 minutes, which gives the actual what is the situation hour on hour while reaching the shipments to the destinations. So these are the expectations from the auditors, WHOs, as well as all the customers.
Okay. And speaking of WHO and auditors, Mr. Girish and Mr. Vineet, I want to come to you guys. Starting with Mr. Girish, how is the GDP compliant warehousing landscape for cold chain pharma supply chain shaping up in India? How do you see it has evolved in the last 5 years, and how do you see it going forward? Very quickly, if you can wrap it.
From a warehousing standpoint and the landscape for cold chain, Hanoz, what I feel is there is a 7x growth that's happening currently in India. And I see a strategic pivot from generics to biologics now. So it's no more typical generics that it's no more the typical generics that we used to manufacture earlier, because India is getting into high value precision biologics now. From that standpoint, cold chain facilities are extremely critical to expanding and scale of operations. The network that I come from, I have my colleagues who are sitting right in front of me from the digital supply chain team. We have a state-of-the-art warehouse that we've just invested in. In fact, by the way, the group's investing close to about €1 billion for the next 5 years. And this investment is something for all of you to come and perhaps watch in terms of how good and comprehensive it is to integrate back-end supply chains to manufacturers. So from that standpoint, it's going to be the growth engine for India. And it's going to be how we define, as Gaurav rightly said, it's going to be how we define our going forward. In terms
All right.
of
And then from the other side of the table, Mr. Vineet, how are you seeing this?
Thanks for parking this question. This cold chain market is continuing strong, growing it as of date. If you go with the 2024, there is a $10.5 billion have estimated to 2033 up to this. It was targeted for $27.5 billion. CAGR growth, it was considered, as per my best of my knowledge, is 9%. Recently estimated, it is revised for modernization of cold chain. So this figures is 11 billion US dollar to 75 billion US dollar, which is plus a 25% growth they have considered. This there is a one GI scheme. I am the part of 𝐏𝐇𝐀𝐑𝐌𝐾 and logistics policy which I have rolled out. There is a 1 billion US dollar. This is their plan for rollout. Already they have started invested in the India in this Pradhan Mantri Krishna Yojana. The key highlights why this cold chain market or cold chain configuration or to be enhancement. This is one is a capacity build-up, capability build-up. More than 100 of the project is going on in the market. And this is under purview of Government of India. Second, focus on agriculture and food, vaccine, biologics. They are majorly considered it. Third is sustainability and efficiencies, which lead to be minimize the cost. How it will be? It will be a IoT, involving of integration, involving of ESG vehicles, green vehicles, involving of this carbon footprint result. Fourth is what India looking at that aspect, Government of India. They are looking as good distribution practice, certified global, this cold supply chain. And that is local by globally as well. Fifth is they are focused to deliver the goods beyond than Tier 1 cities, rural sectors. Major challenges is cost, OPEX and CAPEX due to electricity and these are the key challenges I like to highlight.
You get what you pay for, right?
Yeah?
You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
So if you want it, you have to pay for it.
Right, correct. Then infrastructure gap is the major challenges. Plus coverages, rural sectors, ODA location, deliveries, every logistics service provider having still challenges. So that people are like DHL, JWL, all team members working toward to how to improve their pin codes for to fastest deliveries. Then customer-centric approach, which is very important. Visibility, traceability, real-time data, that is. And last one is the LSP challenges, service provider challenges. These constraints is always there. If you want service provider to do, you need to pay the cost. You want the service provider with a GDP classification, you need to pay the cost. So any other can be added.
I would have loved for him to counter that, but we are running out of time. So I'll continue with my questions.
It's a very vast topic.
Yes, absolutely. So speaking of streamlining exports, I think one of the hottest topics right now is the Government of India initiative for ULIP. That's not the investment ULIP. This is the Unified Logistics Interface Platform, which promises to kind of streamline. It's like it's supposed to be a one-stop shop for everything, all the government portals, declarations, everything on one platform. Okay, the aim and ambition is amazing, and it is going to be spectacular. But I want to check with you, Mr. Girish, since you're on the front lines of this, how is ULIP actually shaping up in a real world? Have you or some of your other peers actually implemented all those APIs through it? Have your clients implemented it? How is it shaping up?
See, from an LSP standpoint, we have a typical program like the ULIP for the Government of India, which actually integrates data from all our, from inland depots to container yards to airports to the domestic land side as well. That's something internal that we have as a tool. But from my customers, I understand that it is not sounding as excited as it should sound to. Because a couple of them had logged in.
It promises to be like a control tower, right?
Exactly. A couple of them logged in and then they try to get some information, typically from the customs, portal, especially when the site is down. So in many cases for customs brokerage, there's something called an 𝐼𝐴 where the 𝐼𝐴 is down. So obviously you can't then feed data into the system and then you can't get a shipment out. In such cases, there are these customers who have used the ULIP portal. Unfortunately, the feedback that I've got that it needs a lot to be desired more than what it is today. I'm sure the Government of India is actually listening, and there are grievance cells which actually look into feedback from customers. But I think the feedback I've given is we have to go a long way to make it as effective as the government wants it to be, which gives you a digital interface cutting across departments and gives you that visibility and the data which Gaurav was talking about, basis which you can decide on your transportation. Yeah. So it leaves it largely to be desired now, Hanoz. That's my candid
So I want to throw this open to all my colleagues over here. Do you want to add anything on how, have you tried out ULIP? Have you explored it? How is it shaping up for you all?
So on the ULIP side, I can only add on, today in the last 5-7 years, Government of India has done a lot of work wherein it has become a very faceless, it has become very documentless, also paperless kind of thing. Today the incentives and all those things are flowing accurately, provided you have filed the documents very accurately. Today you can log in into the 𝐼𝐴𝐧𝐢𝐧𝐠 systems and you can track all your systems. It is sometimes the flip side is that if the shipping lines or the airlines, they don't add up their data, their inputs, that your systems, your drawbacks, all your advanced licenses, wherever the issues are there, they get held up. But again, they are all approachable and you can complete all those circles very accurately. Today, it's very easy that you can approach the customs and whatever the issues you have, you can get this thing sorted. So I think it's a big hands-on to the Government of India, and the vertical approach what we can have as an escalation matrix, that's a very good thing. They are periodically conducting the town halls also, wherein the exporters and the importers can come across and they can put their pain points and they can get this thing addressed. So that way I think there is a lot of good work which has happened over here, and it's a very cross-functional, very cross-driven kind of activity. That's what I can say.
Okay, very interesting. I want to pivot now to Mr. Gopinath, and then Mr. Devang, you can add to it as well, is around data, right? The favorite word of everybody, right? Data. So what kind of minimum telemetry or event-based data do shippers need to provide to have some sort of AI-based or some sort of a data analytics-based decision-making for best outcomes like reduced transit times, reduced excursions, reduced cost, things like that?
Yes. Hi. Thank you for the opportunity. Maybe audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. We do, of course, track the movement of the goods as well as the temperature monitoring. We do it, and also we monitor the humidity also many times. And whenever we send the goods to US or any other locations, we do monitor it and we do track and analyze the data. And that definitely helps us in, when to send, where to send, how to send. Want to take it forward?
Yeah, sure. Mr. Devang, you want to add anything to that?
So AI, I can say Google is the biggest AI today. Whatever you log in, it will give you a very accurate information to the best what it can give it. Apart from that, if you have to tell me on a very subject or a very solution oriented, maybe I can pick up one area where maybe like Gaurav was also highlighting about these excursions or the data analytics. The past history, whatever you have, maybe can help you a lot to overcome all your issues. And when you fetch all those information, whether today you have AI or without the AI also, because that becomes a reference and that can enable you with the help of all your logistics service providers, your airport partners, your airlines, your shipping lines, be it anybody, they can all come forward and then they can guide you on how these certain situations can be avoided, and you can make this as a benchmark or a practice that it will not reoccur in the future. So these are, I would say, more than AI, more of a boardroom where, as I mentioned earlier also, with the quarterly reviews or a monthly reviews, you can get this thing resolved in a more better way. On the excursion, as I mentioned, with the robust backend, like Pramod also pointed out, we can have the accelerated study data. Today we have only 15 to 25, then we can go for 0 to 40, 50 degrees because the demographics are completely changing. Today, if you go into the Europe, you have never heard those countries are warming. London never experienced any temperature beyond 23, 24 degrees. Today, they are facing 30 degrees during the summers. So these are some of the things which are rapidly changing, and we will have to come forward and we will have to do all those statistics and analysis.
Right. In addition to it, as pharmaceutical company, we have also learned what to do. The stability, what we do it for the longer time nowadays, so that even if the excursion happens, we have the stability data to get the goods accepted by the customer. That is also there. So we also know where to do, what to do now. That's the advantage. In addition to it, there is a lot of improvement in when it comes to the airport. We have to, what we were talking about earlier. Fortunately, in the last 10 years, we have not seen any temperature excursions, even though we are exporting to US, Europe, and all those companies, because of the excellent work done by the airport, the private companies like GVK, GMR, in coordination with the excellent freight forwarders, and also all trainings which they have imparted to them. It's all because of that reason, we are not, fortunately, in the last 10 years, in my company at least, we have not seen any temperature excursion. And also the stability data will always help us also in that case.
Got it. Yes, Gaurav.
Yeah, so I think on the point of data, while I mentioned earlier that there needs to be data-driven decision making, there is another challenge, flip side also of data. 5 years back almost, I heard in one of the AGM of Reliance, it was mentioned, data is the new oil, right? That was the term. Now I see that there is too much of data. I think that's also increasingly will be a problem for all of us. And I think
quality of data is the key thing.
So the problem is also, and maybe that's the benefit and the boon both, we have such a powerful device in our hand phones, everybody, all of us in this room, that it can do what the computers and supercomputers were doing few years back, right? Almost a decade back. Such a powerful device, too much of data when you see anything and everything. So now how do you make meaningful inference of that data is the bigger challenge, right? So I get data of forecast, I get data of seasonality, I get data of country, I get data of market intelligence. Now there's too much of variables in terms of data. What to pick and what not, or how do I forecast still, right? So that's the problem. Too much of data is also a challenge in terms of inference or prediction of analytics.
That's why you have new jobs of data scientists.
Absolutely.
And that is the reason.
And that's why I think AI and LLMs will become more relevant, that how do you churn these 300 million data points in few seconds or few minutes, right? So
and this too much of data is restricting the forecast accuracy to not going beyond 75, 78 or 80%, not the 100%.
Absolutely.
So, Revant, coming to you, not forgotten you, don't worry. So, switching to sustainability, right? That's the other buzzword after data, right? So, sustainability, of course, we have a lot of things around reusable packaging or net zero warehouses and things like that. But when it comes to export logistics, things like circular logistics may not work. So, how are you seeing the practical application of sustainable practices for cold chain, supply chain?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Revant Ragam, and I take care of procurement for Aragen Life Sciences. And Aragen Life Sciences is a CRO CDMO space and the second largest in the country. So, coming from the standpoint of sustainability, what we are looking currently is the trade-off is basically on 2 points. One is definitely the cost, which is being a pattern where we see there will be around a ranging of 3 to 8% which cost stuck which will be getting. And then coming to the second point, which is more critical, is the supplier readiness, where a lot or the development of supplier is becoming, and his capability improvement is becoming a bigger challenge, because most of the suppliers, or whether say the logistics handlers from India, are not having that kind of capability to demonstrate and be compliant to the global policies. So that is one critical area where we definitely have to throw some light.
We have a supplier outside who might beg to differ, actually.
And yeah, so when addressing to that point, definitely most of the suppliers or logistics providers, about what we are talking on the digital part or the sustainability part, these are all implemented to the top 30% of the companies, where the policies are driven from the Western and East European countries, and that is where a lot of changes are being coming into the scope of things. And yes, India is evolving in same passion and the same strength. And coming to Aragen Life Sciences, what we are looking at or what we are doing is we have made a framework for green procurement, and we have done some good initiatives where we have reduced the secondary packing, and we have introduced FSC certified cartons. We have started using fuels, eco fuels. We have signed off a sustainable fuel agreement with DHL. So there are a lot of activities from Aragen standpoint of view we have been doing.
Okay. So lastly, sorry, Mr. Dev, I'm going to add something. Okay. So lastly, very quickly in a couple of minutes, Mr. Pramod. So right now we have a lot of GDP and WHO compliance, friction points which are happening at the moment, right? So what could be some of those key things that you would prioritize for this year to reduce that kind of friction?
What is the basically?
So for GDP and WHO audits which keep happening for our warehouses, there are certain key common themes, key common challenges or non-conformances that pop up. So what would be some of those top few issues which you would prioritize to tackle this year?
So basically temperature mapping, the temperature mapping of the warehouse, and that should be a seasonal mapping. And nowadays, the latest version of the US FDA guidelines as well as WHO guidelines, they say that you should map the temperature for the lower point as well as highest point. So there should be two hotspots should be monitored, and it should be validated for the cold spot and hot spots. So this is the new guidelines which comes, and they random basis they used to check. And we should have a good database for almost 10 years. They are expecting to keep the data for the warehousing management.
Okay. So we have exactly 3 minutes to go. So quick fire round for everyone. So I want this to be useful for everyone. So for the audience, what would be the one thing that you would advise them to target, to implement, or at least explore this year? We'll start from this side, we can go one by one.
So on the sustainability side, I can add on some more. There are use case available readily. One is avoidance of the pallets by using or switching to the slip sheets. A. B is you can improve your air-sea ratios, because the ocean versus the air, the fuel burn makes a lot of difference. The third thing is that it's more technical, because if you increase your batch size, the load factor will reduce, and then you can improve over there also the per unit cost also, and the overall sustainability in all the terms, the overall packages will go lower. And the last that comes to my mind is the usage of the multiple gateways. Today, with the opening up of more and more airports across the India, you can leverage those gateways also to your benefit, and that way also you can give something back on the sustainability by avoidance of the surface logistics.
Okay.
Yeah.
The implementation of track and trace is the one of the important fact which is expecting in the near future. And almost all the countries in near future, they will implement this track and trace to identify the originality of the products. That is the...
Got it.
From an LSP, I feel quality audits that otherwise we do whenever there is an audit that's going to come to our place, instead of that being proactive and do a bi-monthly quality audit, which also includes our suppliers, will go a long way in terms of reaching out to customers and entrancing that confidence in them that we're pretty much GDP compliant and GXP compliant. Rather than waiting for a customer to ask for an audit and then you go about doing your audit. That would be one thing that we would do.
That's great. Yes, Gaurav?
I think most importantly, in short, if I have to say, be bold, take measures which make or kind of use technology to adopt and be more proactive. So supply chain has long been reactive. I think it's time that we become more technology driven and more collaborative. I think that's very, very important, and be proactive.
Accept the change.
Change is the constant.
It can all happen by proper planning, of course.
Data and technology based driven supply chain, not science based.
coming to the, from the sustainable standpoint of view again, as we are driving the compliance of, it might be regulatory compliance or it might be any other business compliances, we have to run sustainability and ESG parallel to it and ensure that a proper training, and we have a training schedules or development schedules to the our suppliers and our third-party manufacturers, so that they also get into the mode of ensuring sustainability into the people.
Okay, I think if I may add just one last thing is people development. I think with the quantum of change happening across the spectrum, I think upskilling our people so that they become the ambassadors of change rather than the resistors of change. I think that would be also one of the key things we can drive. And then once they are up to speed, I think they will themselves carry the torch forward. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I think our time's up. And I hope this has been a very useful session for all of you all with some key takeaways that you can take back to your organizations and try that. Do we have time for question or do we not? Do we have time for question? One question or no?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Satya, we are always
running
right
tight
here.
on timelines now.
Anybody has any question, anything, please feel to reach out to us. Happy to address and discuss that. Thank you, everyone.
Increase the frequency of your cheers, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful panel. Thanks once again for sharing such sharp, practical, and real-world insights on streamlining warehousing, strengthening pharma exports, empowering, infusing technologically empowered modeling into the end-to-end value chain. So your perspectives, I believe all of you would also, agree to me, demonstrated how innovation clubbed with technology, clubbed with human intelligence, clubbed with, process and systems intelligence can transcend to be not just operational enablers, but critical drivers of compliance, resilience, visibility, and maximum competitiveness in the global pharmaceutical supply chain, not just domestic. Once again, give up a round of applause for our esteemed panelists to take us through a roller coaster ride of all the scheme of things when it comes to tech, exports, and being at the forefront of supply chain mastery. I'd request Mr. J.P.N. Singh, he is a managing director at Scorpion Group, to come on stage, felicitate a distinguished sessionist to chair the fourth session of today. Ladies and gentlemen, with a loud round of applause, giving out for the moderator, Mr. Hanoz Tarapore, Supply Chain Head for Markets ASEAN, KRANZ, Ortho Clinical Diagnostics. We have the Head of Warehousing and EXIM Operations at Sandoz, Pramod Vansore. We have Mr. 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐵 from Glenmark Pharmaceuticals, General Manager, Global Head of Logistics. Give it up for Mr. 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐵. We have Head of Business Development, Life Sciences and Pharmaceuticals, DHL Global Forwarding India. Give it up for Mr. 𝐭𝐻𝐳. We have Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, He's the Vice President, Global Supply Chain Head, Sahajanand Medical Technologies. We have Mr. Gopinath Santosh, General Manager, Supply Chain Management at Felix Generics. We have Vinit Kumar, Senior General Manager, Supply Chain Management, Warehouse and Logistics, Lanco. And Revant Ragham, ladies and gentlemen, Associate Director, Supply Chain Management, Indirect Procurement at ASEAN Life Sciences. Please get it for a group photograph, all of you. Please hold your trophies and certificates. Your trophy as well, Mr. Pramod.